All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Hudak, absent. Councilman Lord.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notations of the exits in the front and the rear and electronic device. Please put it on vibrate. Hold on just one sec. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I make a motion to come out of the executive session. No action was taken.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Work session. First thing on the discussion this evening is interstate logistics. Gentlemen, you're up. You're going to need to.
We have a microphone.
You got a mic?
Thank you, Supervisor Hay, members of the Town Council. As you may recall, my name is Dan Richmond. I'm with the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz. With me this evening are Rich Pearson from JMC and Kevin Svedo from JMC as well, the engineering and planning consultant for our proposed Northeast Logistics Center. As you may recall, we were before you last fall in which we introduced the concept for our project for a logistics center, adding that use to the town's code. Since that time, we've been heavily engaged with the town's environmental consultant, planning consultant, AKRF, as well as with various members of the community and the planning board, which has now assumed the lead agency role for the project's review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SECRA. Last week, the planning board deemed our draft environmental impact statement, or DEIS, complete, so we will be shortly beginning the public hearing process beginning on July 9th before the planning board. But we are before you this evening to give a brief presentation to, now that the public hearing process on our project under SECRA has begun, to reacquaint you with the issues, to explore them with you. Let's go to it. As you may recall, we are proposing to locate on the property located on 312 and Pugsley Road in the town, a modern logistics center with about 1,100,000 square feet. When we started assessing this use, which is essentially a distribution center, it's been highly coveted, highly desirable now as a result of particularly e-commerce, the demand for consumer delivery to people. We realized that the town code lacks this as a use. So we've been engaged and we proposed some legislation that would allow use while the town code allows a warehouse use. What we are proposing is a logistics center akin to if you know the Gap distribution center further up I-84 or something like Amazon proposes. It needs to entail more uses: repackaging, labeling, distribution. It's very in demand in this economy and is a proven job creator. I'll be explaining our economic analysis, and that was something that was prompted. We were always very confident that this would be an economic boon to the community. To its credit, AKRF, your consultant, directed us to prepare, as part of our DIS, an empirical analysis under the most recent and the current state-of-the-art modeling, which is in plan, which I'll talk about later. And it shows that they're going to be about, as a result of this, direct, indirect, and induced impacts of the project, there are going to be about 800 construction-related jobs, about 900 jobs during the operation of the facility, and once the project is in full operation, it'll have an economic output of about $90 million a year, which we are, again, very confident will be a significant benefit to the community. The project would have very few demands on the municipal services. Obviously would not generate, don't have any school children. It's on the site, as you may recall, of the campus at Fields Corner residential project, which was a 143 unit residential project. which the applicant has vested rights to complete through 2020. But unlike that, it's, in addition to no school children, it's not going to have major water demands. There's no need for a wastewater treatment plant like the campus project required. This is going to be handled through septic fields, and there are wells on site. And as a result of the development, over 80% of the site would remain in its open space site. It was very important to us, and we took this to heart when we were talking to members of the community and as well as your consultant, that it was very important, we understood, to maintain the rural character, particularly along Route 312. And you'll see as we go further through the PowerPoint that the project's virtually invisible from I-84, from 312, or other points of the community. I think it will fit well within the community. So this is an overview of the site. Again, if you can orient yourself, I-84 is along the bottom, the Home Depot development is sort of in the lower left, and 312 runs toward our project, and we are at the intersection of 312 and Pugsley Road. You can see from this, which is a good overview of the project area. This was prior to its current, right now it's not being used for anything, but prior to that it was farmland. And the areas we're developing are basically, you'll see on proposed lot 1, 2, and 3. If you can see the field areas that are sort of already developed, that's what we're essentially going to be using for our project.
Do you have a pointer? Do you need a pointer?
And mine's out of battery, so.
You want me to put your mine? Would be helpful?
Great, yeah, thanks.
While we're waiting for the supervisor, I'll just explain again, as I mentioned before, this is the site of a approved residential project for 143 units that our client has the right to develop through 2020. But as a result of its careful analysis of market conditions, it realized that the highest and best use of the property is a logistics center. And our analysis shows that the logistics center is going to have ultimately fewer demands from the city, from the town, fewer impacts on the town, and again, while conversely generating significantly more taxes than the prior use. Over 80% of the site, or 264 of the acres, are going to remain open space, including the lot. When the supervisor comes back with a pointer, I'll highlight it. But it's the lot on the lower left, which is abuts I-84 and 312, would essentially remain in its undeveloped state. The only thing that would be on there is one well. Is it one well, two wells? One well would be on that property. Other than that, we are not going to be affecting that property. So again, you'll see the area along 312 is essentially going to, appear as it does today to most people driving by. Well, except for the mitigations. We've proposed significant traffic mitigations, which Rich will talk about shortly, that are designed to ensure that traffic runs essentially.
75 miles an hour.
Thank you.
We talked about
That
you,
makes sense.
we talked about you the whole time.
I know that.
So, Mr. Supervisor, as I was pointing out while you were away, this lot is going to remain undeveloped, and 264 acres of the site will remain undeveloped after the development of the project. The buildings are going to be located far from 312. The closest would be approximately 1,000 feet from 312. And again, when you see the visual analysis, you'll see you won't really be seeing anything from 312 or I-84 or any point else throughout the town. So we are now before the planning board, which is leading the environmental review of the project under SECRA, the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The planning board is leading a coordinated review, meaning that all agencies with jurisdiction over the project are, again, participating in that review. We thought it'd be helpful to highlight the specific actions that we are asking the town board to take. The hearing coming up is not a hearing on the actions that are before the town board. Again, this is the hearing which starts on July 9th before the planning board. The would really focus on the DIS and the subdivision application before the planning board. We hopefully, when we get through with the seeker review before the planning board, we'll be back before your town board for these applications, at which point the town board could have a hearing. But again, so we are proposing in the first instance to create in your zoning code's definition section, to create a definition for a logistics center. And again, as I explained before, our idea is to create a new use that is sufficient to encompass all the demands of this kind of e-commerce driven distribution center that goes beyond a warehouse. It allows for repackaging, labeling, handling, and other related management towards getting goods to consumers, the end users. We are also proposing, related to that, to allow logistics centers as a conditional use in the town. Allowing it as a conditional use in the town, that means that it would be subject to planning board review, and the planning board would have, in addition to its ordinary site plan ability, the ability to impose conditions to ensure that the project is in harmony with the community, including that it can only be on lots of 25 acres, and also subject to prescribed design guidelines that, again, are proposed in our proposed conditional use review standards, which would include landscaping requirements, the maintenance of natural vegetation, site access requirements, the requirement that no building in the use be any closer to the boundary, no closer than 75 feet to the boundary of any residential zoning district. Again, this is all designed to ensure that the planning board has the authority to ensure that the use ultimately is in harmony with the community. We are proposing to make logistics center a permitted use in the OP3 district. This is the only OP3 district in the town. Part of this district is in the rural commercial, the RC zone. We're proposing to rezone part of a lot, and a slide in a couple of slides will show exactly where we're proposing to rezone from the RC to the OP3. But critically, we are leaving the entire frontage along 312 in the RC district. And again, the view shed from 312 will be buffered. No building is going to be closer than approximately 950 feet from 312. And when we go through the visual analysis, you'll see that it is not visible from 312. We are proposing also to privatize Barrett Road. When we go through a slide and then further in the presentation, we'll explain our goals in doing that. Barrett Road is currently a town road that is not in use. It essentially dead ends on our property. It bisects lots, doesn't lead to anywhere else but our property. And we'll talk about that too. Finally, we are requesting that the town send a letter to the New York State Department of Transportation to support our request for a highway support letter. Basically, the Department of Transportation limits large trucks to a mile from the intersection of an interstate to the driveway. The proposed driveway of two of our lots off of Pugsley Road are actually slightly over a mile, so we are required to improve those to certain design standards and dimensional requirements, and then DOT would enable us to go from, again, the I-84 ramp to, again, down 312 up Pugsley to those entrances to those two lots.
Can I ask?
Yes, please.
No, finish, I'll ask it.
No, it's fine.
When you say a large truck, now, most are around 40 feet, but you're talking 53 feet?
Yes, many are actually 48 feet also, and the state permits 48-foot trailers, but today's... Can you take the mic? Yep. Rich Pearson with JMC. Many of the trucks are 48 feet rather than 40 feet, but the trend over the last several years has to have 53-foot trailers. So your Targets, Walmarts, any of the bigger stores, anything taking over long distances typically use a 53-foot trailer.
Now, I'm interested in going back to that last slide where you have to ask the town for an access highway support letter. Now, you're asking, I understand what you're doing. There's a concern about, I think it's called Fields Corner in Patterson coming in. If you have to be 100 feet within, can a tractor trailer come off anywhere else and come down Pugsley Road?
No, well, if I could just answer that, then Rich, you can amplify. Just to be clear, first of all, we are not improving Pugsley Road up, sorry. We are not we're not proposing to improve Pugsley Road to the Patterson border. That is essentially going to remain in its undeveloped state. No truck driver, we will ensure that that all drivers know not to make a left, but I think no driver in their right mind would make a left turn up there. So truck drivers won't go up there.
Okay, so the question though is more of, if you have to be within 100 feet of an exit.
1 mile.
One mile.
1 mile. If they came off of 311, they wouldn't be able to access without permission from the town of Patterson with a support letter, is that true?
Yeah, they would not be able to travel more than a mile from interchange 19 at Route 311 without having one of those roads, be it Fair Street in this case, designated as an access highway. And that would require the support of the town of Patterson.
And if they
And
didn't,
also, yeah,
It would require, just to be clear, it would also require, before DOT gave that permission, to improve the roads to certain designs and dimensional standards.
so if the town of Patterson did not give that consent, the trucks could not travel on that road?
Correct, not more than a distance of more than 1 mile from the farthest ramp. So it could only take you partway down Fair Street, not to the point where it gets to Fields Lane. And as to Dan's point, there's a portion of the Fields Lane that has an S-curve in it. The trucks cannot physically make that turn. The large trucks. We would have to improve that road substantially to accommodate the trucks,
And you're
and
not
that's not
gonna
our
do that.
intention. That's
There-
correct.
Can I
They're
just
just,
ask-
just so you know, Fair Street is going to be improved, that S-curve's going to be taken out. But it just isn't practical, as I look at it, for any other municipality to grant 53-foot trucks the right, which tear up our roads terribly, to get to Northeast Logistics. It doesn't make it, it's got to be at least 5 miles from that other exit.
Correct,
It's a
right.
little late with what you already produced, but at some point in time, can you identify on that where the 1 mile marker is coming in from Patterson? Not asking for it now, but at some point in time, because people are of interest about keeping trucks off of, what's it called?
Yep.
Fieldman Forest?
Well, also, Pugsley can't,
No,
just
the
can't.
other end, from Patterson.
Field Corner.
We don't have an
Fields
area
Corner.
that shows.
Gentlemen, you don't have to do it now.
We can get back to you on it.
It's
but-
of importance to some people, and if that's one of the reasons or rationale is to not to have it, it might work.
Understood.
But just to explain,
Now, he's saying to come from.
Patterson.
from Patterson,
No.
Right, exit 19, right.
It's too far.
Okay,
Or it would be exit 18.
that's a good thing.
Right.
It's
Correct.
too far, so it can't happen,
Right,
unless Patterson says yes.
correct.
And I don't think
And the
that-
road would have to be improved. So Fields Lane and Fields Corner Road would have to be improved to have 10-foot minimum travel lanes, which they don't have right now. And it would have to be so that the trucks could maneuver so as not to substantially cross over the double yellow center line, so that you don't have vehicles, running into each other. And we have no intention to improve north of Barrett Road, except to, we're improving an offset intersection with Zimmer Road right now, based on our current proposal. Yep, right here. At this area. Right now, there is a curve through here, and we are going to be straightening that out at the request of the town. And then we'll just have it gravel road for the first couple hundred feet as we transition back to the existing Fields Corner Road, and that would be the limit of our work.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, but it was an important point.
Correct.
Thanks.
Right, and then this is a stretch up here. This is where I mentioned that S-curve that the large trucks cannot physically fit through based on existing conditions. It's relatively narrow there. It's about 16, 17-foot total width, and then there's embankments on each side. So the truck would not physically make it through there.
And so to be clear for people who are here from Patterson, if they are, they're welcome, and I'm glad they're here. Pugsley Road at this point in time is no longer proposed to have a closure, is that correct?
We, look, I think that's, we met with the supervisor of the town of Patterson. He had previously requested that it be closed. We understand that certain members of the council had objected to that. To us, it's sort of irrelevant
Right.
because our truck drivers will not be going
No,
that way.
they can't
And,
fit.
we don't anticipate that as a major, or any use. That's a road that's closed, just so everyone knows, during the winter months already. It's not maintained by the town. So again, if it's closed, that works for us. If it's not closed, our understanding is some discussions that were had with the sheriff's office involve putting up potential signage, saying no trucks there, which to us it's absolutely fine with us because again, I don't think any truck driver in the right mind
Get
would make a
around.
left turn there.
Okay.
Yes, Mr.
Is this a picture of the entire property that you own, or does your property go further
Yes, it is.
towards Simpson?
No, that's the limit of the property.
Okay, so you don't abut Simpson?
We will show that, later. We're gonna show
Cool.
exactly where Barrett Road ends,
Good.
where the property line ends.
Where Barrett Road ends on your property?
We're both, where it ends,
Okay.
it basically ends on our property.
Those are the last couple of slides.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned before, we were always confident that this would be, and I think it's self-evident, this would be an economic boon to the town. But again, your planning consultant and the planning board's planning consultant directed us as part of the DIS to have the most recent modeling, the most up-to-date, state-of-the-art modeling, which is called IMPLAN, which assesses the economic impacts of development projects on local economies, do an empirical analysis. So we commissioned Philip Price to do that. Philip's Price analysis shows that during the construction phase, the direct, indirect, and induced impacts of the project would result in about $110 million of economic output to the local economy. That includes about 818 jobs over the course of construction, including approximately 600 direct jobs, meaning 600 construction jobs, and then other indirect jobs, including people, who supplies would be purchased from. And then, again, there are induced impacts, essentially the money that, for example, construction workers would spend in the local economy would induce further jobs, which Phillips Price, again, using the implant analysis, projected about 68 further jobs. And then during the operations phase, again, direct, indirect, and induced economic impacts would reach approximately $91 million of economic output to the local economy. Again, the project in its operation phase would produce about 900 jobs in the local economy, including approximately 665 direct jobs from the operation of the facility itself.
And is the 91 million, is that inclusive of property taxes, or is that separate?
I don't think that includes property.
Okay.
I think property tax is another thing we'll be talking
I
about
know,
shortly.
but I just wanted to know. Thanks.
So again, as I explained before, the project would generate significant tax revenue, with phase development getting to approximately $2 million in taxes at the end of 10 years. That's what our initial assessment indicates. The assessed value of the property as a fully developed logistics center would have result in about $2 million in taxes to the town. Would generate obviously tax revenue for the school district without any new school children, which I think would be tremendously helpful to them. Minimal demand for municipal services. In fact, one of the things as a result of our discussions with the fire district is that we would actually make our water service available to them in the event they needed it for emergency purposes. And again, I think a favorable fiscal impact. Would go to the next stage.
And is that $2 million, is that including the pilot program, or is?
So Lynn, this next slide is going to
Okay.
assess how we do the impact of it. The way the pilot works is that it's a 10-year, generally, and we're just starting our discussions with the Putnam County IDA by that. There's no agreement with them yet or anything. But generally, their standard practice is for there to be 10-year pilots. In the first year, you pay about 50% of what your value is. So we think in the first year, we'd be paying $1 million. That's compared to the $140,000 that's currently being paid on the property right now. And that steps up every year, incrementally 5%, I believe, so that at the end of 10-year period, we would be paying the fully assessed value of $2 million.
Is that on a full build-out, or is that on just one warehouse, or is that
That's based on the full build-out.
full build-out? Okay, so, and are you going to be,
10%, I'm sorry, 10% every year, so good.
are you going to be structuring the pilot request based on phases of construction? So if you were only building one warehouse, would you be looking for a pilot for that would that initial 10-year period start when that construction began? And then you would go for a pilot for each additional warehouse that you would go online with later on?
Well, so I think, we haven't had discussions with the IDA yet, but our concept, I think, is along the lines of what you're thinking, which we think is fair, that the assessed value for a given lot, and again, we are proposing to subdivide this into separate lots,
Right.
would only rise to its, the level that would be generated by a commercial logistics center when that project is built.
Okay.
So if, for example, a particular lot does not yet have a logistics center built on it yet, the tax value wouldn't go up. It would still be at its current level.
So the pilot program could be ongoing for more than 10 years, depending upon construction periods.
Well, but then,
No, I'm just,
no, but I hear what you're saying, but I think I don't want it to be misleading to the public. So if, for example, we began in year one a pilot on lot 1, and we didn't begin until 2 years later on, say, lot 3, you're right, it would overall go over 10 years, but the pilot on lot 1 would end in the 10th year for
Right,
that lot.
understood.
You're
Okay.
right, lot 3 would still, go another additional 2 years after that,
Cool.
just because it started later.
very good. No, I
But
just,
lot
I
one
just
would be
wanted
paying
to,
the fully
just wanted to
assessed value.
understand that
Yeah.
after 10 years, we're not going to be getting $2 million. It'll be phased as per
Right.
construction. If you finish,
Our market analysis is showing that there's a high demand for this, and that, once we get approval, we expect, building to take place in all
Great.
phases shortly thereafter. But, you're right,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, this slide shows the proposed rezoning of a portion of the RC. As you see, most of the site to the right is existing OP3 district. That's that whole section which is about 60% of the overall site. The area that's green, it will remain RC. So that's all of Lot 4, and that's Lot 6, which is going to be dedicated to the DOT, and then Lot 5, which is proposed to be dedicated to Putnam County as part of the Tilly Foster Farm. So what you see is that, as Dan explained earlier, that the property is to remain RC all along Route 312. So you'll still have the feel of seeing the trees along 312, and as Dan mentioned before, also the closest building, Building 1, is about 950 feet from Route 312, and you won't see the building from Route 312. What we have is, in the bottom right corner, the current acreage of OP3 is 229 acres, and there will be 267 acres with proposed adjustment. And then the RC is currently 99 acres, and we'll have 61 acres of the site remaining RC upon the completion of the change. Next area of discussion is related to the ridge lines. You have in your ordinance language relative to ridge lines, which are elevations over 500 feet throughout the town, and the ridge line is defined as the upper 50 feet of elevation from the uppermost elevation, or the ridge top. So we've analyzed those areas very carefully. With your ordinance, There's a couple criteria that you have specifically in the zoning, and we've designed the project to implement the zoning code's ridgeline protection provisions goal of avoiding to the maximum extent practicable off-site visibility above the ridge line. We have lowered the uppermost portion of the peaks of the ridge line, which balances the cuts and fills on our site. And then the development is designed to reduce the visibility to the maximum extent practical. The proposed buildings are within former farms, the farm fields, the sort of meadows today. It's some brush there now, but the bulk of where we are proposing our development is in the former farm fields. So this is not in an area that's heavily wooded where we're proposing to site our buildings. The ridgeline criteria in the town discusses the trees to be removed and has a maximum trees to be removed of 10 trees per quarter acre. We have two ridgelines, as I mentioned, within our site. We have identified them as Ridgeline A and Ridgeline B. In Ridgeline A, we are proposing to remove 2.9 trees per acre, so substantially below the 10 trees per acre in the zoning code. And on Ridgeline B, we are only removing 1.4 trees per quarter acre. So again, with both of those, we are substantially below the tree removal criteria. The next point relative to ridgelines is we are providing extensive landscaping. We are proposing 604 trees, consisting of 475 evergreen trees and 129 deciduous trees, and more than 1,300 shrubs throughout the property. We've also designed the building coloring to blend into the surroundings. We're proposing to have it green and then a sort of a greenish gray type of color, and so this would tend to blend in, as I mentioned, rather than some of the other buildings in the area that were the genesis of the ridgeline protection. We understand it's the Home Depot development was what spurred the legislation. We are also going to have dark sky compliant lighting. The lighting that we're proposing will all be directed down onto the site and not to spill over onto neighboring properties, which would minimize the visibility of the property. We've then done an extensive analysis of the views from various aspects, and this has been coordinating with the town boards, planning board, and the town consultant. We've also had various videos that we've created. Tonight we don't have videos to show you, but we show you some still shots from these different locations that we've looked at. So orientation from bottom left to upper right. This is Interstate 84. This is Route 312. This is the area here. This is Sunset Drive. This is Garrett Boulevard. This is Maple Road over here. And this is Twin Brooks condominium development over here. So go to the first one, please, Kev. Okay, so this is from Route 312, and it's looking up Pugsley Road. Next slide. This is a computer simulation that we have, but the simulation reflects the grades of the road and whether there's trees. We tried to match the types of trees that are out there to the best that we could. There's mature trees throughout this area on both sides of Pugsley Road currently. And as you can see, based on the distance of the buildings plus the changing grades, the proposed building would not be seen from 312. This is the second perspective. This is a view from Maple Road. Again, we had a video of driving along Maple Road, but this is a perspective. There's a bench at one point along the reservoir. This is a winter scene, and you would barely see the tops of the buildings right in this area from that location. And
You would?
no, it's fine. You would. We believe that you would see a portion of the buildings from that area
And
during the winter, right?
I believe from your video, you could see it from other angles on Maple. And a quick question, and you may have it tonight, but I didn't see any visuals from the rail trail, and apparently you can see it from there.
We have in the DEIS, we have a perspective from the rail trail as well. It's similar to what we just looked at, but it is in the DEIS. There's a figure on that.
Thank you.
And then this is along Interstate 84. Along 84, the westbound direction, going in that direction, is at a slightly higher elevation than the eastbound direction. So this is the most, there's various aspects that we looked at, and we did have videos in both directions on 84 with leaves on and leaves off. This is, the next slide is an area where you will see just portions of the building. This is in the winter. There's limited views of the buildings. In the summer, you wouldn't see it. And if you were traveling in the eastbound direction, we don't think that you're going to see the buildings at all, based on the vegetation that's there. Then that's in the summer conditions from the westbound direction. So we think that's going to be limited to partial views in the winter from that specific location.
That's your property there where that green is, right?
It's initially New York State DOT property within the right-of-way, and then our property continues after that.
And that's like old fields that are probably going to have trees growing over the
There are
years.
some, right.
Yeah,
You're
you're not going to be clearing that. That's
We are
gonna-
not clearing that at all. To
So
to
that's-
Dan's, what he showed you at the beginning of the RC portion to remain when the supervisor was getting that
So that would be a
right.
good screening over there.
Absolutely. Okay, this is another perspective we have. This is from Sunset Drive, which is about 1.7 miles from the site. There, along Sunset Drive, most of the traveled way you cannot see towards our site. So this is one portion of Sunset Drive where you can see over towards where the site is. So we took this most conservative location, and we have the building shown there, and it's there, but it's very difficult to see. And then we also looked at Garrity Boulevard. This is 1.5 miles from the site, and because of the change in topography, as illustrated down here, this is the sight line towards our site, and then the topography goes down, but then it comes back up, and it comes up in this area, and that effectively blocks the view of the site at all. So from Garrity Road, we've also driven the road. You cannot physically see any buildings that would be constructed on the site. And this is from Twin Brook Court. This is about 600 feet from Building 4, between Building 4 and Twin Brook Court. And there's existing trees throughout this area, and then there's also an existing tree line right through here, which is mature deciduous trees, I believe mostly maples, that will remain. And we're also providing extensive landscaping all along this area, primarily evergreens. Next slide, please. And this is the winter view from Twin Brook, and it's limited visibility of the building back in this area, and in the summer, you wouldn't see the building at all.
Could I make a suggestion when
Sure.
when we have the public hearing, when the planning board does? I really think we need to turn off lights just for this portion, because I think with the lighting, it's difficult for people to see any kind of contrast.
Can people
Sure.
see, you want us to turn it off now? Okay. No. I think she needs
Those
these
are
over here.
That's the end of the pictures. though.
I think that's the end of the pictures,
That's
though,
okay,
Lori.
Tom.
It's okay.
Again?
Yeah, it's the end of
Why
the
didn't
pretty
you say
much.
something before?
Because I want to see you go.
Popcorn's gone and.
I was hoping we could talk about you again.
Yeah, I was going to mention the popcorn. Next
yeah.
time we'll bring some, yeah.
Yeah, but I would
They just
suggest
do.
that for the planning board. It's very hard to see any contrast.
Well, right there, you can see where it's.
Yeah.
Next. Okay, we've also conducted an extensive traffic analysis for review by the town, as well as the New York State Department of Transportation. We've met with the NYSDOT 3 times about this project. They're very familiar with what we're proposing, and we have modified our analysis based on input that we've received from New York State DOT. We've looked at the peak roadway hours, which is on weekday AM and weekday PM peaks. We also looked at the Saturday midday peaks. As far as the trip generation from our site, there's various trip generation rates that are typically utilized for a wide variety of developments that are published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, known as ITE. I'm a fellow in that organization, and it's based on studies of similar developments throughout the United States. The logistics center, as we're proposing, also known sometimes as high cube warehouses, typically generate fewer employees and associated traffic than general warehousing that you think of over the years. We analyze the site as general warehouse rather than the lower traffic generator of a logistics center at the request of your planning consultant, AKRF. We also looked at what we're identifying as a sensitivity analysis, which looks at if our traffic, which is typically out of phase with the peak roadway traffic, if it were to occur at the same time as the peak roadway traffic, how would traffic operate in that circumstance? So we've done this very, very conservative sensitivity analysis, and that's all included in the DEIS.
It's an important point to emphasize that.
Right. We do not expect that to occur. We think that these types of uses are typically out of phase. They have shift changes, typically 7 o'clock, 3 o'clock, rather than 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock. But we did superimpose them in a sensitivity analysis for a conservative assessment. There's also the Crossroads 312 development that has been approved, but we are by the town, but we are not certain of the activity on that property. It hasn't seemed to be moving forward recently, so we've looked at conditions with and without the Crossroads 312 project. We are proposing mitigation to accommodate our site-related traffic. We looked at the intersection of 312 and Pugsley Road, first at a conventional traffic signal with turn lanes, left and right turn lanes, and widening Pugsley Road, and we also looked at a roundabout. The New York State Department of Transportation actually prefers roundabouts when all things are equal currently, because it's a safer intersection control. You don't get the T-bone accidents that you can have with conventional T intersections, even when they're signalized. And it's very effective with capacity of being able to process the traffic. So in our instance, the roundabout works better than the traffic signal and related improvements. We also looked at other intersections, and we are proposing to have signal and lane use improvements at the Interstate 84 ramps. As Dan mentioned before, we're going to work with the state about improvements to Pugsley Road, and we're going to be reconstructing 0.8 miles of Pugsley Road to get access not only to our site, but it'll help to improve year-round access to the town and county properties on the east side of Pugsley Road. Next. And what we have here is a couple of simulations from our traffic analysis. This is shown at actual speed. This is a program known as SimTraffic, which is part of a Synchro program. It's widely accepted throughout the country, and it's based on actual traffic volumes, signal timing, lane widths, all the factors that go into our traffic analysis. So what we're looking at here is the I-84 ramps. This is 312 here, this is 84, and this is on the left side, it's with the Crossroads 312 project and their associated improvements, and on the right side, it's without Crossroads and their improvements. So as you can see, there is capacity on the bridge over 84, where the traffic here is not having any capacity constraints over the bridge in either situation. Next. And then this is the proposed roundabout at 312 and Pugsley Road. On the left, it's with the Crossroads development traffic, and on the right, it's without Crossroads. So you can see here that there's virtually no significant queuing along 312 with this improvement. So it's a great way to process the traffic relative to capacity, and then also to have a nice, safe intersection operation. Okay, getting back to Barrett Road, what we did is we looked at the extension of Barrett Road and relative to the right-of-way. Everything in the purple color is our site. This is Pugsley Road here, and this is Barrett Road. which is currently unimproved. And this one portion here is what we would be improving as part of access to the site. The remaining portion of Barrett Road is currently unimproved, and it would remain that way. And then this is the end of the existing Barrett Road right-of-way. So to your question before about John Simpson Road, that's over here, and Barrett Road right-of-way does not extend to John Simpson Road. These parcels are based on the county database. And next is a close-up of that area, and what we see is this is our property again in purple. This is Barrett Road. There is a bridge over the Beaver Brook, but that bridge is on private property and is not, within the Barrett Road right-of-way.
If you go back to the last slide, could you just show me where the pond is?
Yeah, the pond is right about here.
Oh, so you go, okay. And the pond will remain?
The pond will remain, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're gonna stock with trout too.
I hope so, because I haven't been very successful lately. I got to try that. Well, I can't try it because anyway. So I think that's our presentation. Oops, sorry. Yes, just to reiterate, this is the highest and best real estate use of the property, high economic development impacts, and substantial local net revenue gains from property taxes and low environmental impacts.
Okay, for the public, this is not a public hearing, but we will let the public speak. I'm going to ask the board to ask any questions further, and then we'll go to the public. And as far as public comment, when you come up, you state your name for the record. Now, your name is on record for speaking. However, if you want what you say this evening to be part of the record for the FEIS, you need to put that in writing or come to the actual public hearing and repeat your comments. We'll listen to your comments, they'll write down your comments, but they're not truly a real matter of record, so to speak. So if you want your comments to be on record, submit them in writing during the FEIS period or when we have a public hearing and also at the planning board work session. Are you going to have a stenographer there for the public comment as well?
Yes, we have stenographers scheduled to be there, actually.
Okay.
So what you say tonight, we're listening, they'll be listening, but it's not officially on record. So if you go to the public hearing at the planning board and with the town board, that's the official record, just so you know. Town board.
Do you have questions, Edwin?
No.
I have a lot, but I'll try to be quick.
Why don't you become part of the public?
Do you want me to go down there? I'm used to that, and I still remember those
John?
days.
Sorry.
Yeah, she's going to take time.
No, I'd like to, like, Lynn, sometimes when Lynn says stuff, it makes me think about something.
That's even worse. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it is.
Is Barrett, as I understand it, Barrett Road you want as a private driveway, actually, so that you can get the special dimension vehicles access? Because if it stays a public road, as I read it, that would count in your 1 mile from the,
No,
No?
it doesn't have, I don't think it has anything to do, our desire to have Barrett Road privatized, I think has more to do with the operational, ensuring the functionality. Do you have the mic, sir?
yeah, he
He's-
does.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not on. Repeat. I apologize. Our desire and our request to have Barrett Road privatized at that location is to ensure the functionality of the two logistics centers. Kevin, will we just go back to that slide? Of those two logistics centers at that location. And also, frankly, we're not comfortable with pedestrians going through that area. We would not want to encourage that. In order for, it has not, the 1 mile requirement has nothing, we would be improving Pugsley Road
Right.
with the dimensional requirements to get to that. I don't think we need to improve Barrett Road to get to that.
If Barrett Road is a private road, as we're proposing, it would not need the New York State DOT access highway designation.
That's
If
what I'm
If it were a public road, continue to be a public road, then it would have to be included in the request to New York State DOT. We did discuss that with them initially as a possibility before we got down this far in the process, and they had no objections at the time to including Barrett Road. as long as it was supported by the town and improved as we are proposing.
If it stayed, but what, I guess my question is, would there be a problem if it stayed a town road, even if it was improved?
Would there be a
Problem with special dimension vehicles?
No.
No, okay, great, that answers that. I just got the DEIS, as you know, so I was looking at the old one. So some of these questions might not be accurate, and I apologize if they're not, and you can correct me. But there is a talk of the 269,000 gallon water tank. Do you know how high that's going to be, how big and where?
Can you show approximately?
The where is in this area, and as far as the specific dimensions, we can provide that as part of the FEIS. It's being designed at this time.
Okay, and so you don't know a height yet or anything?
No, but we'll have that in the FEIS.
Okay, I think that's really important. They're not really usually terribly attractive, but anyhow.
Yeah,
Also.
it will not be on a tower per
Right,
se.
right.
It'll be right on the ground.
Yeah, that's what we try to do too. Also, you have the northern long-eared bat. You're in the bat zone.
Yes.
In here, you say that you can't cut trees, and I don't have it. I think you said June 1st through July 31st. But I was talking to Ashley today, and it's actually, unless you have different information, the clear cutting or clearing can't take place from November to April. So I would have you look at that. I don't know whether you're correct, but that's what we've always been doing.
It's just so you know, Lynn, generally speaking, with regard to the bat protections, they're designed to avoid tree cutting during the roosting period, which is primarily, I mean, November through April, the bats are off-site. They're in there.
Right, that's when you're cutting.
What's that?
That's when I think you're supposed.
You can cut, right, when
Yes,
they're off-site.
Yes.
Oh, you're
So
saying.
you're saying in here, 3 times, it says June 1st through July 31st, I believe.
Yeah. I believe that the information in the DEIS is correct, and I think what you're thinking of, or Ashley may be thinking of, is the Indiana bat,
Okay,
which is in some areas of Dutchess County. That's something that's more prevalent, is the Indiana bat.
we've been, well, then we're wrong, because we've been telling applicants for a long time, even if it's the Indiana bat, that that's in the bat zone, and that, there are restrictions.
Okay,
And
and I
it's-
know Beth Evans, the
Right.
the consultant
I know
that we
Beth.
have involved with this project, is very familiar with the bats, and we'll double check with her, but
Okay,
I've got confidence she's
that's
correct.
something we can check on. Okay, and what I read that was of interest to me too is in the Build Now New York.
Yes.
What exactly are you, is that an application for marketing help? I'm confused as to what that is. It's in the DEIS.
Bill, I'm not sure what you're.
There was a whole application in the DEIS I looked through, sorry. There was an application, in fact, it gave your hours of operation, which were 24/7, 7 days a week, including holidays. You don't recall that, no?
A Build Now application?
The Build Now New York application. Oh, okay. It's on our website, and it's
We'll point out the
rather,
page to them and they can look it up. Not now,
Must be
but
an
no,
appendix.
okay.
she'll forward it to you tomorrow.
No, it was extensive, and it was extensive. I won't get into, are you going to, at the public hearing, you'll be doing videos of the view sheds?
Yeah, we certainly can do this.
Okay. And I would ask then for the trailway, well, if you don't have one, to at least have stills of that. And the thing with the trailway and with Maple is, it's really not when you're driving, and you'll catch a glimpse of it and you're driving. But when you're walking, you're staring at it. So you might want to slow those videos down when we're, at the planning board.
Or you can start running instead of walking.
Yeah, I could. That would not be nice. That would not be a pretty sight, so. Yeah, there's that too.
That's John.
Yeah. And are these buildings going to be expandable? Can they grow? Is that, because we have one project, Ace Endico, that was improved, and we knew that they were going to grow over time, and it was part of the application. Is that going to be at any part of your application, or is it possible, or do we know?
It's not proposed at this time, it's not contemplated as part of this application. We'd have to look into it. I don't know if engineering-wise it's feasible to expand these buildings. I mean, I think it would, just talking off the top of my head, I think it would be complicated because the buildings are designed to have adequate parking and circulation around them.
Right.
So it's-
Okay, so to the best of your knowledge, they'll be kind of done and done.
Right.
Okay. So I asked about the pond. This is why I wanted my DEIS early, then I can just flip to my tabs. This is much harder for me, which puts me in a bad mood,
We're
sorry.
available to, no, if you have questions later, look, the DIS, technically, as Supervisor Hay mentioned, the public hearing hasn't even started, so if you have other comments and other questions, we know the DIS just got circulated, so.
Right,
we-
okay. So the one other question that I'm told from a meeting this morning is not accurate, but it was in Ashley's list that was approved, was accepted, I think, by the planning board, she wrote there would be 510 truck trips per day, semi-trailer truck trips per day. But I understand now that's not accurate, so could you correct me on that?
No, I didn't think anywhere we said anything other than that.
Well,
Okay,
this morning, it was AKRF representative that made that comment. There was not truck trips, but truck and vehicle.
I think he thought that the 510 was vehicle count, not just truck trips. So he thought that truck trips, saying 510 truck trips was the wrong information, only because he thought it didn't include pedestrian cars. And so 510 was a conservative estimate on your part, which they appreciated.
Okay, I mean, that's just strictly truck trips. And
It is,
there would be passenger vehicles above that, but that's over the course of 24 hours.
okay.
Okay.
And typically the truck trips occur out of phase with the peak roadway hours.
Okay, so it's 510 plus.
Yeah, plus. Is it accurate to say, though, that what I read that isn't in here, I guess, on that one application is, and this would be the normal, I'm sure that it will be a 24/7 operation, year-round, holidays included?
Correct.
And again, Lynn, that goes to the point, again, that, truck drivers and haulers desire their traffic to happen off
I know.
hours. They don't want to be caught in rush hour any more than rush hour wants to interfere with them.
Okay. And you don't have any kind of projections on wages for yet, do you, or do you? I haven't gotten that far.
I believe if you look at the in-plan analysis, it does, if you look at the in-plan analysis, which is, again, was prepared by Phillips Price, I think it does project what wages would be. I think it says that generally speaking, and it quotes Department of State, Department of Labor, New York State Department of Labor statistics, and say the median wages for transportation stores and distribution managers is about $110,000 for transportation materials. Moving occupations is about $35,000.
Right, yeah, I'd read that the Gap pays about $32,000, so it which I assume you know that's logistics center or warehousing, which is right up the
What we're
road.
proposing is corollary to that. So that we're based, what is in an in-plan analysis was based on Department of Labor, so 35, 32.
Right, that's pretty close. And I guess last question is, I understand that the Gap and they are always advertising, it looks to me like, for help, because $15 an hour or whatever is a good wage, but it's not, for Putnam County, it's not really a living wage exactly. It can help out a family greatly, but I understand that in Fishkill, they bus workers in from Newburgh. Is that something that would be entertained for this as well, or would be completely up to, obviously, if they can get labor from close by, or?
I can't speak to the GAPS operations. Again, we are building this. We don't have an end user designated yet who would, obviously be responsible for the ultimate employment. So I can't honestly speak to that.
Okay. And I guess my final question is this is moving along very quickly, which you're entitled to do. It's all within what can be done. Is there any particular reason? I'm just curious.
I would actually say, I'm not sure it's being conducted particularly quickly. I would note that we were before you last fall when we started discussing this. We've been, for the past 6 or 7 months, again, the public hearing process is just starting. For the past 6 or 7 months, we've been engaged in detailed planning on our on our end, detailed planning and discussions with members of this board, members of the planning board, AKRF. So I guess I would respectfully say, I think we're proceeding, in due course,
Oh, it's definitely in due course. I understand that it's faster than most of our applicants. It's a little bit faster. But, and I'd heard, and this is just, I don't know even where I heard it, that there was kind of, you really wanted to be finished by the end of this year as far as the process goes. And I just was wondering if there's a deadline you have in mind, or if there's any particular reason. And you don't have to answer that either.
No, I mean, I'm happy to answer. Look, there's no deadline, but again, the market is, there is a market for these right now. There are demand. I think for the foreseeable future, there will be demand. So I don't think it's like again, there's no rush to meet any particular deadline. I think, look, we're proceeding in due course, and we are, working to get this done because we think it's desirable use both from the town's perspective as well as ours, and I think the wider community.
Okay. And take a look when you get a chance at Powers Fasteners. It's on Doansburg Road. I'm suggesting it because it's painted, if this project is approved. Powers Fasteners is a big, big building that I think's been really well done as far as painting and fitting into the landscape. So, because sometimes green isn't so great in the winter, and I know this will go through architectural review, but it's just a suggestion for you to take a look at it.
We'll certainly look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
I'm not sure if it's faster, but I've only seen one other project come before the town board since I've been here. It's kind of a new regulation that it comes in front of the town board. But I hate to say it, but this is probably head and shoulders above the previous applications. I just hope I don't have to read this 3 different times. And I hope when I go through these numbers that they're consistent. Because the last time, I had to read this 3 times. And nothing is worse than watching grass grow 3 times. So every time it came with a change, so if you make any changes, make sure you give us supplements. And what I was trying to say is, if when I read this, the numbers jive on like each page, like I was reading something with the last applicant, they said X number of square feet and things of that nature. One page would say 1,800. 25 pages later, I read like 1,600. I said, I thought it said 1,800. I went another 100 pages and it said 1,400. So the consistency. And what you've done with the roundabout, you're very well prepared.
Thank you very much, Mr. Supervisor. I would just, again, I'd like to take complete credit for it, but we've actually been had our feet held to the fire by your consultant AKRF, which carefully vetted the DEIS. We went through several iterations of the DEIS before the planning board was in a position where they were comfortable deeming it complete for public review.
That's it? Okay, public. Okay, let's start with you, sir, if you come up first. I'm sorry, ladies, you come first, but this gentleman has his hand up first, so he's going.
Sure. I think this is
No, over here, Terry.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
It's easy.
I'm a college professor, so I don't need a microphone.
oh,
Well,
yes,
you do because of the,
I'm actually going to sleep. I'll see you later.
and while that gentleman's speaking, if the next person wants to maybe take a seat here.
All right,
keep
can
that-
everybody hear me?
Yep.
Could we go back to slide number 4, please? The greenish one. Well, anyway, I live in Twinbrook, and there we are. I was quite impressed with the visual analysis that the buildings, especially Building 4, will not be visible at least most of the time from Twinbrook. But we do have other sensory modalities, smell and hearing. And off to the right there is Interstate 84. And I can tell you, having lived at Twinbrook for 20 years, I can certainly hear 684. Can't smell it, but presumably these trucks are going to be diesels, and you don't turn diesels off, from my personal experience, especially in the winter. They have to idle because it's a pain in the ass, to turn them back on. So I assume we're going to have a fairly large number of idling big trucks rumbling along in and out of the place. That will cause an olfactory issue if and when, and it often does, the wind pushes from left to right in that diagram. And noise pollution. Have you, fine gentlemen, approached that issue?
Yes, Professor, we have, and I hope you'll take the time to read the DIS, which contains substantial noise and air quality analysis, and I think you'll be comforted by that.
Hi, I'm Jamie Callanan. So some of the things that I think might be helpful for the public hearings is fast facts, such as the number of trucks. So 510, I didn't read the thousands of pages online, but 510 is overwhelming. What is the noise and environmental stuff? You talked about being green. How are the buildings green? So are you guys going to be bringing in electric panels, all of those elements? The total number of trees lost, you broke it down into acres, but that doesn't help in terms of a fast fact. Maturity level of the new trees that you're going to be putting in. So it sounds great number, but if they're little tiny trees that have to mature for the next 30 years, that's a challenge. And I wanted to know what peak times you utilize, because 312, I don't understand why all of our construction and projects always happen on 22 and 312. They're major arteries for our town, and that one in particular is the major artery for our schools. So what were the times that you guys were looking at when you were doing your peak analysis?
Well, we were required, again, by AKRF, the town's consultant, to do what Rich was explaining as a sensitivity analysis, which means that we were correlating as if our peak hour traffic would be at the same time as the peak traffic hour in the morning, i.e. where the school is. As we explained, in practicality, that's not going to happen because, again, just like you don't want school traffic to be at the same time as trucks, the truck drivers have a limited window that they can drive every day. They don't want to waste their time.
Right,
being
but
stuck
7 a.m. is the time. So if you have shift changes of the employees, and let's just say you have 300 employees coming in at one time, that is the time on 312 that both the middle school and the high school are traveling that road. So if you try to go from my house off of Maple to the high school, to the schools, it takes me 12 minutes without any traffic. Once you start to add in all of the traffic, the buses and all of that stuff, we start pushing about 20 minutes. So it's the 7 o'clock hour, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. of that.
We did look, again, the sensitivity analysis looked at 7 a.m. and it showed that I think traffic is essentially going to be as it is today.
So if we have 510 trucks across a 24-hour period, and we have 300 employees, were both of those factors into the sensitivity?
Truck traffic, yes.
I missed the end of what you said, but essentially the 510 trucks is not 510 in, 510 out. It's a total of that. So you cut the number in half to say how many actual trucks there are. So it's 255 coming in, 255 going out. That's over the course of 24 hours. And again, most of the trucks don't come out during the peak hours of the roadways, in or out during the peak hours.
Okay, so one consideration might be, a blocking of time of school bus traveling time is not a delivery or especially a leaving of that. The other thing that I completely didn't understand from the visuals is the Pugsley Road entrance. I thought, from what you were saying that, they're not going to come off of 312 and go in at Pugsley Road from the way that it was talked about, and then later on it's like, nope, there's going to be a roundabout and so forth. So what it didn't look like from the simulation was that those trucks were those vehicles were actually trucks. So if we think about trucks going in and out of roundabouts, it's not like a woo, like it was depicted. It is a very, like trucks are going to have to come to a yield and see what is happening. So I think that might be a little bit misleading. The other thing I think that is very important for fast facts is, that $2 million is great. How much goes to Putnam? And how much goes to Southeast? Because Putnam, our town is one of the richer ones within Putnam, so we often fund other towns at the expense of having everything here. So it's great that we have Home Depot for convenience, but where does all of our money go? Same thing would be how much of that stays within Southeast versus Putnam.
I did a fast fact on that because I was interested as well.
Yep,
at the $2 million, if that's the real number. Usually it's around here, it's about 85% school, 8% county, 7% town. Schools get 1.7, county gets 160, and the town gets 140. So every time I hear how much we get, 140 is not a lot of money.
But for the schools,
Schools is big time.
where we could be excited about that. And let me just make certain. Oh, the wages also, fast fact, would be helpful in this is, you know, you had 110 and 35. How many employees are getting 110 versus 35 for that? And I think, so one, it's great that we're looking at revenue things. I love the fact that there's no more school children potentially going in there. The traffic, the congestion is a nightmare. And is there any way, and I know this is going to be a no, but was there any thought of how to get a direct exit, like just a truck-only exit from 84 over to that? And I can't, in my mind, picture the logistics of that, but you know, even just from the southbound or the eastbound lane, if we're, you know, just one exit that goes right into that area to relieve the congestion of those trucks coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Kathy Croft. I had a couple of follow-up questions about the trucks. It's 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
That's what we're proposing.
Right. And what would the average time, turnaround time for a truck going in, unloading, and then leaving?
I would have to get back, I don't know if we know, I think it would vary on the truck.
Right. Oftentimes, they'll drop a truck there, and the cab will go off on the property rather than unloading and then loading it back up.
And I assume also that they'd be taking full trucks back out again?
Typically, some of these operational issues, we wouldn't, know the specifics, except for when we have a ticket.
Right. But other than you saying that truck drivers don't want to get stuck in traffic, they're free to come and deliver whenever they can.
They are, but as I mentioned before,
Now, that makes sense.
Okay.
Obviously, it makes sense, but the point has to be made that they are free to come and deliver whenever they are there.
understood. Based on empirical data of these types of facilities, they recognize that oftentimes the truck traffic is not, occurs during other hours rather than the peak hours.
And as Terry pointed out, because I was going to ask about the idling, which he brought up, the whole time the truck is there and doing their delivery, they just keep running, yes?
Sorry?
When the trucks are there and they're having their delivery, they don't turn the trucks off at all? In other words, diesel trucks are loud and noisy, and air quality is affected, and Putnam County doesn't have good air quality.
Again, we do a
Right.
air analysis in the GIS, and I think it shows.
Gentlemen, if you would please, speak in there, gentlemen.
Again, we are doing an air analysis. We did do an air analysis in the DIS, which I would encourage you to review, which shows that this isn't going to have any significant adverse air impacts in the area.
Okay. How do they actually go about doing that? Figuring
Again,
it out.
Rather than giving a half-hour dissertation on the air analysis,
Right.
I think I would encourage you to read it, and
Yep.
then if you have specific comments on the air analysis,
Okay.
we can respond to them in the FEIS.
Great, thank you. Question about the roundabout. In your DEIS, you have, you mentioned mountable roundabout, which I would assume is used for the trucks? Because your picture
Correct.
just showed everything green. It didn't show any mountable area.
Right, there's an area that's in the center island that the outermost portion of that would be a mountable area with a couple inches of reveal that the trucks would use, the larger trucks would use that, but passenger vehicles would not.
So basically, they're not going to be going around, they're kind of going straight?
No, they'd be
No?
going around, but they just need a little bit more room.
Right. So would it be 2 lanes
Yes, it would.
all the way around? But when a truck is there, would it be safe to say that there'd only be 1 lane?
No, the truck only needs to use one of the lanes the way we've designed it, and we have simulations to show that as well.
And do you know if there's a roundabout in the area somewhere where there's a logistics center? that are trucks using
I'm not certain
currently?
relative to logistics center. There's plenty of roundabouts in the area.
Right, I know that, but near a logistics center, which trucks use constantly. I'm just,
Yeah,
I'm,
we've
these are just-
designed roundabouts before. We've designed them for trucks before. That they work for trucks. There's certain criteria that the state uses and national criteria that's utilized relative to trucks.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Alicia Russo, and I live on Fields Corner. And I know in November, there was a request by one of the council that you reach out to the local neighbors there, not limiting it just to Southeast, and I haven't received anything. The slide, something with the diagram, I don't know if you could pull that up, the slide where it showed the different, I wanted, you had reference from the condo that you were about 600 feet. I'm curious to know the corner of southeast borderline, how far are you from that?
It looks like it would be further than 600 feet.
Right. And, do you live in one of these two houses?
Well, no, yeah, you see my house in the pictures. I'm the first one. 2 feet from the southeast border.
Okay. So that's your house. So
Mhm.
the closest building is over here.
Mhm.
And based on this being 600 feet, I would say it's.
The front line, I'm curious though,
right,
how
I
far?
would think this area,
Right, to the
the
road.
corner of the building, I can't give you a precise, I would say off the top of my head about 1,200 feet or more.
So I won't be able to see any
Right,
of
all,
those.
right, all this existing trees, everything in that area would remain.
Okay, and I know with the traffic you had referenced coming off, right now I'm experiencing it, where we've had 3 tractor trailers in the past year come down and then they realize they can't make the bend. When these drivers do the GPS, because now they're on a 10-hour time period, if they can save 7 minutes, they're trying to save 7 minutes. But not just to limit it to the tractor trailers, like with the Gap, they have the box trucks too, and if you're talking about packing and labeling, wouldn't you also be utilizing the box trucks?
Yeah, the trucks I mentioned would be a combination of different types of trucks that they have. They're not all 53-foot trailers. And again, we're fine if the road is open up towards your house or if it's closed. Either way, we're fine with posting signs, no commercial traffic. The sheriff had indicated to us that his staff could enforce those signs. And if that's the direction that both municipalities want, we'll accommodate it either way.
And then speaking about the trucks running, and I think you were going to answer that, obviously they don't have to run in the summer because the diesel doesn't thicken up.
Well, one thing I would just point out, I mean, again, the future of automobiles and, combustible engine, it's actually shifting towards electric. So I hear the concern about diesel, but I think as time goes on, it's going to.
Yeah, but a lot of these are independent truck drivers. As we own a truck, it is not one that's 2016. It's earlier, so we have certain things we have to meet. But in the winter, we leave our truck running. Also, a lot of these drivers are coming from the west, so that's why there is a concern for the exit 18, because again, following GPS, unfortunately, a lot of them don't look at the maps. So they would get off that exit because it's 7 minutes. But when these drivers have 10 hours and they've just met your facility, now they have to be off for a number of hours. Where would they be housed? I mean, are they leaving the truck there and sleeping in the truck there? I mean, there's a number of things that the truck drivers now, with the electronic logs, have challenges.
I hear you. I'm not sure if there's a question there. Again, I mean, we'll certainly, if you want to put that into a question.
Mike.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Right.
Again, if you could put that into a question, we'd be happy to respond to it in the
Yeah,
FAS.
will you have somebody, somewhere where these truck drivers will be able to stay the 14-hour layover that they have to do because you're on and then you have to be off a certain period? Otherwise, you're in violation, subject to fine, according to the logs.
Mhm.
They have to follow their logs. So is there somewhere where they're going to be staying?
Again, I don't think, I mean, we haven't, there's no hotel associated with this.
Right, so
It's-
you would have to make room at your facility for them to have the trucks running for them to stay.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the case, and I guess,
Okay.
again, we don't have an ultimate tenant that I think would be the one that would ultimately be the arbiter of that.
Okay, and then lastly, when you did the traffic study, I show it as being May 27, 2017. Is that roundabout? It was the week before Memorial Day, where a lot of people are away.
We can check the
Yeah.
dates, but we wouldn't have done it during the Memorial Day.
Just
Yeah.
before, not the week after.
We are always careful, and JMC is always careful to do the traffic analysis when school is in, so, again, I mean, this is,
Right, yeah,
this
sure.
comes up on all projects, and, I'm sure we will look at the date.
Right.
Um,
And,
The town consultant has reviewed the dates of the
right.
account.
And also, because Pugsley Road, believe it or not, was still closed as of, I sent an email April 28th, saying that, the blockage was still up. So it was only probably open 2 weeks when the study was done, so you didn't get a feel for turns and anyone coming out. So there's a couple things. Was it 21st or 20, or Memorial Day was the 27th?
Again, I mean, I'd have to look at our, analysis to know exactly what the date is, but again, just based on our practices and JMC's practices, feel comfortable that the traffic took place,
Yeah.
that the traffic analysis took place under an ordinary,
Yeah,
time.
yeah. It looked like the week before Memorial Day. Okay. That's really all I have for now.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Russo, before you go, you did ask me one question, and I didn't see it on there. You had mentioned, as you're heading toward your home on the right-hand side in that field, it was supposed to be, what did you think was gonna go there on the right?
Well, as far as I knew, it was donated, on
I
the
told
opposite side of the road. Oh, on the field, a water facility. The green two patches, I thought there was some sort of water.
See, we're building, what is that, building 4?
So the
Sheila's
two
right.
green patches,
Is there anything proposed in that bottom right-hand? See,
right there, oh,
right,
These
yeah.
two?
Is there anything, yeah, is there
up
anything?
above it.
There's a well, an existing well, but there's nothing else proposed in this, you're asking about this whole
Yep,
area?
right there, yep.
Yeah, nothing there.
No, okay, it could, obviously I was working, well, this size versus that size. What are the two green?
I would qualify, the only thing in the vicinity of your house is if there was to be a gate, then it would be turnaround areas, so that if somebody came down and saw there was a gate there, they'd be able to turn around.
Yeah, like I said, we have had tractor trailers, because interest of time. All right, thank you.
And also, just for the record, I mean, at least I read it in the newspaper, Patterson has at least one planned truck rest area being proposed in Kent somewhere, which is just up the road from this location. So if a truck driver comes, there may be a location there, if it passes, like if this ever passes, maybe there as
I
well.
think it's along the lines of exit 18.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if
it's on Route 52, so,
anyone- Yeah,
yes.
so, it would
Proposed.
be, yeah, so how do you get,
Well, you would get, technically, if the best-case scenario, they'd get back on 84, drive up and get off and then go down 52.
right. It would be the best case, I agree, but if they're backed up, I guess, coming on and off, but I guess that's another project
Yeah.
that they'll look at.
Anyone else from the public would comment at this point in time? Yes, I have one coming, and just wait 1 minute and you come up as well.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Brandon. I live on Mine Lane and Tilly Foster on the other side of the end of 312. And I just want to express that I have severe concerns about the noise that's going to be involved. 500 truck trips going in and out per day, night and day. I have a lot of concerns about the pollution with those trucks. I have a hard time believing that 500 diesel trucks are not going to have any impact on air quality. The traffic itself, the wear and tear on the roads, the impact on the watershed, which it does have effect on, the ridgeline disruption, all of those things, and light pollution. Even if you have down-facing lights, there's still a great deal of light pollution that has occurred from the buildings that we've already seen. So it's not really a question, it's just concerns that I have about this project.
Thank you.
Sorry, just a quick question. Is there any why building 4 isn't the other way, so that it is further away from both the house, the residential areas? Was that evaluated?
Yes, there's wetlands down in that area.
Perfect, thanks.
Anyone else from the public?
Tony, can I just, so the public knows there is, and correct me if I'm wrong, July 9th, which is a Monday night, and July 23rd is the official public hearing, where there will be a stenographer. So your questions, anything you did ask, I agree with Tony, you should put into writing, you can send it in, or you should be there that night, either of those nights, so, and thank you for coming tonight.
And that'll happen is this location at 7 o'clock.
Yes, it'll be here.
And what are the dates?
7:30,
7:30?
July 9th and July 23rd, both are Mondays.
Okay. All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay.
Thank you.
And don't forget my pointer, $75, you were over an hour. Okay, we're gonna take just about a 1-minute recess, let them get put together, and we'll continue to move forward. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's fine.
Aye.
It's a little late.
Okay, I make a motion to come back into our regular session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next thing on the agenda, discussion, Town of Southeast, Sunset Ridge at the Highlands Southeast Executive Park, shared parking discussion. As you know, the Opportunity Park, probably several years ago at this point in time, it was like 4, 5 years ago, was being considered for Sunset Ridge, and that's up by the glass building on Route 22, as what everyone refers to as the glass building. That was dormant for many, many years, and then it was partially successful. Now it's really successful. I mean, you go up there, it's really difficult to get a parking spot, and we own the property right next to it. So I was brainstorming one day, and I said to myself, geez, if we become successful at Opportunity Park, we would need additional parking. They need additional parking. We do things on the weekends with activities there. They are mostly Monday through Friday, although Saturday's busy, but not as busy as Monday through Friday. And I asked if we would consider maybe sharing some parking. I'm not going to say they're going to benefit better than us, but it will give an additional access. So I started a conversation with them. I've been telling the town board, but this is really the first time we discussed it, at a meeting, so to speak. And it's at the point now where they're going in front of the planning board, and what they would like from us is a possible letter of intent. It's not going to commit us to us, but we have an interest in it. Now, what do we gain by it? I would say we would get first of all, everything they do on the site will be at their cost. So it's a big benefit to the town. It will give us an additional exit from our lot, give them additional exit. It will take some of the traffic off of Route 312, which we were just discussing here. And basically, it's, I think we're going to get 75 additional spaces on the two properties. I think about 75% of them will be on our property. And I just think it's a good thing. So what I have here this evening is a letter, which I forwarded to everyone an opportunity to read, which just identifies the fact we have an interest. If it comes to fruition, the town attorney, of course, along with their attorneys, will write up the agreement. It'll be recorded, easement, and I think both of those would benefit. So I'm putting it on for discussion this evening, and get your thoughts on this. I think it's a good thing. I'm not sure if Opportunity Park is actually ever going to happen. It's still, I think, in the works. It's not moving forward at this point in time. No one said it's died. And the town owns the 10 acres there, and we hope to develop it someday. And I think this would help us. So, discussion.
I'll go first, I usually do. Looking forward, the only thing I would like to protect is they do have Saturday hours, don't they?
They do.
And so I would like to have, and I want to look at everything, of course, from the, as far as impervious surface and all that, but
that's
all of that aside.
Yeah, but that's all going to be done
Right.
with the DEP,
Right.
the DEC.
Everyone's going to weigh in on that.
Yeah.
So I mean, my main question is to protect the town if Opportunity Park is built, if we end up ever having a ton of money and build a recreation center, which I doubt if we, but the point is, I want to protect our parking and the reciprocal parking on Saturdays, certainly. I don't think, and things always change, so
Yeah.
that would be my major concern.
The only thing is, we can never guarantee anything. I mean, right now, people use it Monday through Friday, like
I
a
know,
bunch.
I know.
Saturdays, more and more people. Sundays, we would share right now, we would not use it a lot during, and again, we're gonna have plenty of parking too, but if we have a big event, we can have it. You know, we have the fireworks and things of that nature. We actually use there a lot currently. This way here, we'll be protected through, insurance and agreement and everything. I just think it's good for us, and it's good for them, and we're helping out a neighbor.
Yeah, as I
And
said,
there's
if
also
we're
a section of
protected.
land that we would never probably ever utilize for anything because of how it's located. They got the better side because it's downhill for us, and it's not quite uphill, but they have the better benefit of it to generate and get the work done.
Yeah, if we protect the town's interests,
We-
I'm-
we
you know,
protect
I
them.
certainly would entertain it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm in support of it. We've talked about it before, and
Yeah.
I agree, it's a good thing, so.
If there were any improvements, they would have to pay for all of them? Because I
Right.
would think that,
Right now, whatever's done there, the 75 spaces, the exit and entrance, it's all at their expense. The town will pay absolutely nothing to this.
road maintenance,
Well,
cut
the main-
cut into the existing road.
That will
if-
all be worked out in the final agreement. I mean, we're gonna have about, I'm trying to think. If we have to enlarge a portion, we're gonna make it so they plow it, because we're not
Right.
gonna be there during the week. They need it more than we do.
Right,
So
so we
when we
won't have
write up the
maintenance
agreement, we're gonna benefit much more than they will. And as far as paving, that all will be worked out in the details, which we will have to agree with.
Okay, and also, if all the traffic is routed that way at some point, I'm sure there's going to have to be some traffic studies done, and there's also gonna have to be some improvements, maybe a light.
Well, whatever's being done, right now, they're in front of the planning board. All these questions should be asked, of course, at the
I know,
planning
but
board.
this is a discussion, so I figured I would bring them up here, and I'm hoping we're discussing it.
Well, we are discussing it, but that question in particular, it's gonna be in front of the planning board. This here is to the planning board chairman, the town is interested in it.
Okay.
And when it comes in front of the planning board, all those questions will be addressed. I
And-
believe.
and the
Or if
bottom
not,
line
you
would-
go and make sure you get them addressed.
No, and the bottom line is, we're all gonna have to vote on this, so if
Right.
if it doesn't meet your expectations or mine or Edwin's or
I
anyone's,
know,
it
but
would
I
be
thought
different.
this was a discussion, that's why I'm
It
just bringing
is.
it up.
But we're not, but again, what we're doing this evening is telling the planning board we have an interest in sharing.
Okay.
And in front of the planning board, while they're there, all those questions, whatever goes on in the planning board. You go to many of them, and Lynn, so you have much more experience than I by going to them. These questions will be asked, and then the final will be in the detail of the easement that's drawn between the two parties.
Do they envision this being any encroachment on Ridgeline?
When there's an encroachment, it's gonna be on the town's part, not on their part.
Okay.
Because we're at the top of the hill, they're at the bottom.
And
Again, it's a question for planning board.
that's.
Well, we
I'd
have to
feel
find
real
out if it's,
uneasy.
no, we'd have to find out. I don't
Okay,
know
cool.
that it's over 500
Thank you.
feet, but.
Okay. Okay. So, what I'm gonna ask later on in the meeting, at the end, is to make a motion to allow me to sign this, to send it to the planning board, and that process will begin there with, now both New York State Electric and Gas is involved with this big time, and of course, the property owners themselves. So we got 3 entities that are working together trying to make this happen.
How's NICEAG involved?
The road that comes up, they have to get, matter of fact, we have an easement right now with NISAC for us to get across, because it goes underneath the high tension wires.
Oh,
They will have to do the same.
Cool.
So they are gonna use a portion of going under the high tension wires with the road, and NISAC, of course, is in favor of it, gives them access to the high tension wires. So everyone, there's like 3 different entities will gain significantly from what happens, I believe.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is the regular meeting. So I make a motion to go into the regular meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just get my bearings here for 1 second. Okay. I'll waive the reading of the correspondence. Approval of the voucher list, number 4. Okay, correspondence, waive the reading. All in favor? Okay, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Sorry. Second, all in favor? Oh, we had so much time, we're speeding up, okay. Approve of the voucher list, $895,851.16. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. First meeting will be July 12, 2018, and Wednesday, okay. On July 12th, later on this evening, we're going to make a motion, because we have to have a public hearing for a CFA grant for the elevator that they propose to put at 67 Main Street for access for handicap. So that's going to be coming up in a moment. So we have to have the meeting on July 12th, and there's other things proposed. Now, here's the question. On Thursday, July 27th, the Brewster, which is a Thursday in our normal meeting, the Brewster Fire Department has a parade. Now, I know many of us on the town board go to that. A lot of the public goes to that. So the question is, do we want to have a Wednesday meeting? Now, we have to have the meeting, if nothing else, to do the
But Tony, I have the 27th on a Friday.
Do you?
Yeah, so I'm not, yeah, take a look.
I don't have my count.
Okay, I have a calendar right here.
Okay.
And so,
Okay, so-
it doesn't mean that the,
Okay,
I
wait.
doubt that the,
So what day is Wednesday?
Wednesday's the 25th,
Okay. So
Thursday's the 26th.
Okay, so the question is, do we want to have the meeting on, I mean, our town clerk is a member of the Brewster Ladies Auxiliary. And so the question is, we can arrange our meeting to do most of the work on the 12th, and then on the date of July 25th, if we want to do it on a Wednesday, we can have a very quick meeting, or do, like maybe at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever. Or do you want to have it on Thursday night as normal?
I wouldn't have it on the night of the parade.
You'd say it again?
I would not have it on the night of the
Okay.
parade, so.
So if we do it on Wednesday, we'll basically try to arrange a schedule, so we only have to do the financials, so we don't, do any real, I mean, it's real work, but you know what I mean. We just announced the voucher list, it's like done nothing. So what time would be a good time to advertise on July 25th?
25th. Well, you know me, I always feel like that it should be at the public's convenience, so I kind of like to keep the time the same, but that's up to my fellow board members.
Well, again, that particular meeting, I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna come in and approve the voucher list like we just did.
Right. Unless we do have other business.
Well, I'm gonna arrange a schedule. I'm gonna bring people in for the 12th, and then the one thereafter. Do you know what the next date is after that?
No, in
I don't have it.
August.
Can we meet at 6 o'clock?
Well, we can meet at 6, we can meet at 6:30. It's gonna be, look, I'm gonna set up a meeting to do the financial business of the town, which we have to do. We have no other choice.
Right.
So 6, if you wanna make it, I'll do
I
it
just,
7.
Edwin has work. I just like to.
You wanna leave it at 7 o'clock?
6 o'clock is fine, or 6:30.
Now, the only thing is, there's possibly, I didn't check this date to see if the planning board meets or the ZBA meets on that particular night, but we
No,
are only gonna be.
The planning board won't, it could be the ZBA, but they don't meet till 8.
Okay. So you guys tell me the time, we agree upon, we're gonna do it Wednesday, the 25th. What time do you want to advertise? I don't care, I'm here.
I'm happy leaving it at 7 for that night in case something else comes up, but
I think there's a village board meeting, and I usually go to those.
And what time's there start?
7:30.
Oh, you'll make it.
If we're, 7 o'clock
If
here?
we're here, if it's 7,
Yeah,
or if
it's
you
gonna
wanna
be
make
that
it
fast.
6:30,
Cool, all right.
so what time, guys?
can we leave it at
Edwin?
7 for Wednesday?
Anybody have a problem with 7?
No.
Okay, so the next meeting we'll approve then is Wednesday, July 25th at 7 PM. John gets to leave at 7:15 to get down to the village. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Waive the reading of the budget transfer, so moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 7. Oh, come on. Who's got, is your number 7, Lou?
No, I don't have it, I don't
How
pay.
did that happen?
I don't know.
Oh,
Hopefully Michelle,
my secretary, what happened with this?
I have the financials, but I don't
Oh,
have,
that's not good.
nope.
Okay, I'll tell you what we're gonna have to do. Let's continue, and I'm gonna have to go find that.
As I say,
Wait, here it is.
Yeah,
Prospect Hill?
yeah, how, I don't have it in my.
I don't have it either.
That's weird. I tell you, my computer died on Thursday. I won't make excuses, but I am. My computer died on Thursday. I didn't get it back until Tuesday, and I got so many glitches, I've never seen nothing like it. So I won't blame my secretary, I'll take full responsibility, but I have it, so we've been saved.
Yeah, you have
I'll read it anyway, I'll read the entire thing, okay?
it. Yep.
So everyone's on equal ground, this is just basic
Right,
performance.
it's fine too.
Okay. Whereas the Town Board of Town of Southeast has received a report and recommendation from the town engineer dated June 11, 2018, with respect to the performance security to be posted by Prospect Hill Office Park applicant in connection with the final site plan for Phase 2 of the Office Park development on property located at 162 Prospect Hill Road, Southeast Tax Map Number 56.1-32.2, the subject premises. Now therefore be resolved that the bond amount is hereby established for the project set forth. Project name, Prospect Hill Office Park Phase 2, bond amount. Site development, $382,000. Erosion and sediment control, $23,900. And be further resolved that the certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the applicant, planning board secretary, and building inspector forthwith. So move for discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 8, it's a motion to set the public hearing for the CFA grant request for 67 Main Street elevator for handicap accessibility. So move for a discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion. Pretty simple matter.
Yeah, we, Historic Sites met down there last night, seems like a year ago. Everything, I think, went very well. Historic Sites made some recommendations, but overall, I think the meeting was very productive, so things hopefully will be moving along. I think
Okay.
this would be fantastic.
So we'll get this posted, so we'll have the public hearing. Of course, that public hearing will take place on the 12th
12th.
of July. All in favor?
Aye.
Supervisor's financial report. Again, I think we have a good budget, where nothing is running crazy this year. Outside council line, even though I increased it last year, is getting close again. I'm not gonna keep increasing it. People just gotta suing us. But whatever. It is what it is. There's no way to identify what or who may sue you, and it is what it is. We do the best we can. Now, I just want to tell you that at Southeast Station, the MTA requested the town board, well, the town of Southeast to, I don't go to the train station that much, but when you go into the train station, there's a curb, I'll call it an island cut early on, and then there's another island cut right in front of the station. We were asked by them to do away with the islands. Well, leave the islands, but do away with that cut, and they wanted spaces put there, parking spaces. So we did it. We have to pay for it. We're responsible for 100% of the maintenance at the station. They also asked for additional lines to be drawn, some additional signage. So, but I have additional monies in different lines in the budget, like sub-contingency lines, because this is totally unexpected. And that's been done. This building here, unfortunately, even the roof looks really good. When you get up there, it's got spiderweb cracks like crazy. It's amazing how many cracks are up there. So we have to put a new roof on here. And that was out the bid. That's going to be done the first week in July. And we're going to be putting new concrete curbing at about probably 40% of the parking lot. Every year when they plow out in this end, as they go out, the islands out there, they get destroyed. And we're replacing them way too often, so when you put the concrete curbs in, the chances of that happening are less. So that's some additional spending that's gonna be taking place. Gonna take a chunk out of one of the sub-contingency lines, but that's why I put it there. Okay. I'm gonna make now a motion to waive the rules to allow us to sign the letter. So first, the motion to waive the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
On the motion to allow me to actually sign the letter? All in favor?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I want to get it done. Okay. Public comment, please. Town board?
The only thing I was gonna let everybody know that the fireworks this year will take place July 1st, which is a Sunday, right back at the Home Depot, or better known as Independent Way. Saving Athens, which will be the band we used last year, will be there again performing this year. They'll start performing at 8 o'clock. Fireworks will go off at 9:30. And if you still want to make a donation to the fireworks fund, it'd be appreciated. It would be, the PayPal account address is southeastnewyork@gmail.com. We've raised a little under $10,000 right now. We have like $9,987. And usually, just to feel comfortable with expenses and all that, we try to get about $12,000 a year. But for this year, we'll be able to afford the fireworks. So hope to see everybody there. The rain date is Saturday, July 7th then, should anything occur.
And just identify how that works. It's not really a town function, but how that works.
Yeah, it's privately funded just by donations, corporations. We send letters out and, you know,
Does the
people.
town give any money?
The
Yes.
town has,
I thought
Well,
we
do we
did.
give?
Huh?
Yeah, do we donate?
No.
Does the
You
town?
asked me for $1,000.
Right.
but I haven't gotten $1,000 from you
I
in
saw
years.
it, you go look at the thing they just sent out today. I said, what do they need the money from me for? They got
In
tons of
years,
money.
I think year one, you gave us 1,000 to the town. After that.
But you
that
asked me
was
this
it.
year for 1,000, did you not?
I did not for this year.
He's given up.
I'm telling you, when you look at the list that you just sent out today, Southeast is $1,000. You asked me for
I
$1,000.
did not.
You did? Oh, man.
Isn't this great?
You don't recall that?
I just
No,
love
I
it.
swear to God. No.
Me with money and you're
Uh-oh,
questioning?
Tody's being gaslighted.
Hey, I'll take it back.
You can take it back. I mean,
I'll talk to you at the
Edwin
meeting.
I'd love it. I'd love $1,000 from the town, you know, but, and all we do is any money that's left over just immediately gets rolled over into next year.
You stick around after the meeting, we have to have a good discussion. But at any rate, there
You're
is,
talking
I
to
want
somebody else.
I want 3,000 for the homeless, so there you go.
no, that ain't happening. Okay,
No, seriously, I don't recall that conversation at all. I had,
I'll remind you when we're done.
okay.
Okay, any rate,
I think June 30th, the library is having a ribbon cutting ceremony at 11 o'clock to open up the new section.
Yep. Yeah, not the big addition, that hasn't been started. but-
No, but
Yeah.
I guess to show what they're doing
Yeah.
so far.
And they do have outdoor tables and all of that, that's set up already, so.
okay.
So we
I'll entertain a motion,
I'm so done.
I'll make a motion, we close tonight's meeting.
where's Lou?
Second, anybody? Who?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.